So I can't speak for absolutely everyone, but I love psychological horror. Like most horrors that aren't your face scares with violin crescendo to really tip it off and get that jump right out of you. Psychological horror is tough to pull off. It might even seem easy to throw blood and guts in people's eyes to achieve that unsettlement, but that's not consistent and should be done sparingly. For subtle horror to really pop, you need to express a central theme in multiple sections of the media you're trying to explain. The vocabulary, the art style, the personalities within. They all have to be real but daunting enough to be scary, because it's an occurrence that can happen to you, the viewer. That's how it gets you. These themes are often mental illness, corrupt societies, things like that, but good psychological horror mediums break those single statements open. Think of a word in those two categories I just put up, and think of tendril-like growths spiraling out of it. The rational thought views this example I'm giving you as something like a mind map, completely normal, you do it in year 10. But when it starts to get bigger and bigger, you really begin to feel the characters in the media and connect with them through their problems. You're one of those tendrils now, in a mind map that sprouted from a singular word. When the magnitude of that becomes insurmountable, that's when the genre achieved its goal. It's truly a making of an immense creature shadowed in mystery. The visual novel I'm speaking for, in my opinion, achieves a level of subtle horror that fully grasps the levels of psychological squirming I just described to you, which is why this is a review as much as it is an identifier for my perspectives on psychological horror mediums. The reason I'm making this video is because of a little indie game I found on itch.io called A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. By free-to-play indie standards, it's a pretty damn good game. It's set in an animal-based society, hold your jokes there, where the biased stereotypes of predator and prey are omnipresent, although unlike media such as Zootopia, it's played into a much stronger and significantly horrific story. There's elements of expectations toward conformity, fragility, and trust, and the descent into madness as a result of exponential societal pressures. The simplest way to describe the protagonist, Macready's journey, is a loss of purpose and fulfillment that quickly transforms into an identity struggle between what she's expected to be and what she really is. While it's not a pioneer in these aspects, it's the clever use of all the game's resources and aspects that make it stand out amongst other titles. But we need to know Macready first before anything else is discussed. What makes her such a unique character amongst the thematic ability this game holds? Macready is a wolf-sheep hybrid, appearing sheep-like, but sharing many common characteristics with her wolf father, both physically and mentally. What she demonstrates to the public, however, pure lamb, trying her best to associate with herbivore perspectives, values, and desires. Anything to not be seen as a freak show, anything to avoid what she was before. For a character to trick their peers, friends, and family in the world of the game, they first have to trick the players, which I think Wolf in Sheep's Clothing pulls off quite well. The only tell players might be met with is the signature art style and haunting music. The bleak colours are a staple difference from the average human's perspective on everyday life on Earth. It's so desaturated, aside from a specific focus on red. Red is the school uniform, red is the sunset, and it's also everyone's blood. Red has its own escalation in Macready's story. It creates its own exclusive interests surrounding itself and only itself. Subtle horror done quite well. But the approachable, well-made character sprites feel as though they're trying to lull these feelings of anxiety away. And at that point, it's partially achieved a form of psychological horror. Multiple sources of varying creepiness colluding together to form a path into something mostly unknown, which makes it scary. Expanding on the music in this game, scores an easy 10. Maybe not in composition, but that's besides the point. Situational implementation is the strong suit of A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, because the entire soundtrack isn't actually dedicated to full horror. In the tracks that arguably are, there's a fairly distinct simple piano rhythm, softly applied, but just enough to establish the tensity of each scene. Likewise, happier and calmer scenes have a distinct guitar. Again, softly applied, it's just strumming after all, but something about it feels relieving in this otherwise bleak story. Briefly, I want to pull up a spoiler, stop now if you care, regarding Cosette's farm. This part of the game is what I'd call the calm before the storm filler, a break from the main story to further establish characters and deepen the next big step into the plot. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows, establishing Macready's blood-soaked issues with internal conflict surrounding her family upbringing, or lack thereof, but by this point Cosette is clearly established as essentially Macready's only friend, the only person she's invested her full trust into and gotten the same back, which makes way for the music to stay firmly in the region of distinct guitars, a few filters to properly establish the mood at given times. That decision tells the story alone. While it's not entirely relevant to the horrors of the game, the music plays an intensely strong role at that section of the game in particular. I just had to bring it up. The supporting cast around McCready also improved the intent behind the game. A shocking amount of them dedicated to establishing the racial-esque prejudice amongst the hypothetical community of animals, and I think the simplicity behind its implementation is its biggest strength. There's no obvious power or status imbalance, it's just a division of instinct, the hunter and the hunted. If I'm being honest, it's only a few steps away from typical gender conventions in social or communal settings. That's a bit political, I don't want to delve too heavily into that, but it doesn't change its importance in the game. These set biases lead to doubt, concern, and even false incrimination, despite the small amount of carnivorous characters in the game's cast. It labels and identifies them, even so much as extending to McCready occasionally doubting her own father. Under the surface, it's not only scary, but confronting as well. The realness, combined with the wacky, unfolding personal experience of vicious homicides, of which you as the player have a bit of inside knowledge of, even if you don't have any experience with it in real life, makes the characters an important stepping stone to just being freaked out in general. So let's circle back around. McCready and other aspects of the game I just rambled on about. They're unknown, yet familiar. A mixture of ordinary and unordinary at the same time. It really does achieve a focus on psychological terror in the player while not failing to deliver good, well-built characters in an effective story. McCready's fall to madness, after hearing the truth about her mother, is nothing but malicious. It's designed to scare you with what she can do by just manipulating the flaws of the game's society, and yet you're also scared to let go of a broken character in need of other sympathy. The music and art style, it's bleak and simple, but combined with the strength of the story, it achieves something real, something horrifying. You can really feel each tool of the game reach out its tendrils, connect with each other, and just increase its magnitude to something insurmountable, which is why A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing is so damn good. You should play this game, if you haven't already. Maybe you think about psychological horror a bit differently than I do. Maybe you even disagree with me. I want you to get your own opinion, because I really think it's worth every minute. Damn solid game, 9.2 out of 10. See you all next time. Hey guys, trying out something new here. I just wanted to say I'm sorry this took so long to come out. I've been talking about this in a couple of video descriptions, maybe even a community post, but I was serious when I said you should play this game. If you'd prefer, I'm also uploading a full playthrough of it in one big video, as the game is short enough to do so. I want to make something like this for another indie visual novel as well. You'll find out which around when it drops. At this rate, you'll probably be waiting a year. But yeah, keep supporting me however you feel. It is motivating, I promise. And if you have any feedback for me, I will probably read it. In a bit, everyone.